So I think, so Matt did this presentation last night at the Utah County User Group, and it was really good, really exciting. I'll be honest, I kind of thought the security topic was going to be kind of boring, but Matt made it really good, so I think you're in for a treat. And you got an extra 8 minutes.
Really?
So
Wow, let's get out of here early, right? That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, Matt Rand.
Thank you. So he did say this is an exciting talk, and I was the one watching the audience, and it's not as exciting as you might think. So there's a chance that there's a lot of demos, there's a lot of coding, that a few of you might fall asleep. That's okay. It's okay to take naps. Naps are good for you. They stimulate your brain. So hopefully when you wake up, you'll be like, oh, I missed a bunch of stuff. Wow, I want to learn that. So it's okay to fall asleep. This is a talk that I got inspired to write after being with, that's not, I have an hour and 30 minutes.
No, I know, I'm turning it off.
Okay. Right. So you just warned me.
Okay.
So I was inspired to write it when I found that there's kind of a gap. What we as application developers know and program with the security, and what security people try to sell our managers. They rarely try to sell that stuff to us. And I don't have to talk so loud.
Here, hang on, give me a second.
Pause.
Okay, you should be good now.
Is that better?
When you turn it on, there's a little on-off switch in the middle there.
Test, 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 test. There we go. All right. So I found there was a bit of a gap between what developers know and what security people try to sell you. And this was largely because I recently became very attracted to a young lady last summer that sells security software and services. And you know, me being the software guy, I was like, we don't need that stuff. And then I worked for Time Warner at the time, and we were about to release an online video site. And if you're a Time Warner customer, which how many people are? Nobody. The cable industry only allows one cable company in a certain region. So if you're not a Time Warner customer, then you didn't get to use our app. Well, in Denver, same situation. We weren't Time Warner customers, so we didn't get to use that. But anyway, we were selling or displaying video on the web, on iPads, on phones, and everything like that. So we said to ourselves, before we actually release this thing, we should do some due diligence and see if people can steal, you know, the videos and stuff like that. And so we hired her company, so I had a bit of experience with doing like penetration testing and stuff like that. And then at the same time, in February, I went to a conference with her in Kansas City. And there were security people that were very knowledgeable, like the technical folks that do security. And I was having conversations with them, and it felt like every time we talked, they were trying to sell me fear. And that I really needed, you know, these $100,000 pieces of hardware and software to actually install in my systems if I really wanted to be secure. And so I just felt like I really need to learn more about it to see, you know, if we really need that, and then at the same time have intelligent conversations with people trying to sell security. So I titled it Develop, Penetrate, Protect, and Relax, because the end goal of this presentation is to be able to develop and show you what you can develop to secure Java web applications, and then what you can do to penetrate them, and then what you can do to fix them. And what I found last night was the penetration and fixing part, I don't quite get to. So in an hour, it's tough to do that. I'm okay with that because I actually haven't written code to penetrate. But I will promise you this, and that is at UberConf in July, I'm doing the same talk. It's in Denver. It's a 90-minute talk, and that talk I will penetrate and I will fix. I'm also working with Chris Mackey to get someone to come in here and talk a bit more about actually hammering on web applications and fixing them. So hopefully we'll get that done. So how many people do web development? And that's like 90%. What do you other 10% do? All you recruiters. How many have implemented security in web applications? Okay, we have about 20. It's a little bit better than 4 last night. What have you used to implement security in your web application? Anyone? What's that? A CG? Okay. Just regular security? Spring security? Anyone use like the standard web XML configuration? Yes? Okay. Anyone use Shiro? From Apache? Anyone use Jazz? J-A-A-S. Yep. Do you like it? Nope. Very few people do. So I'm going to pick on a few of you. What do you want to get from this talk? Anyone want to volunteer first before I pick on you? No? What do you want to get? You're sitting in the front row. Tell me what I'm missing. He wants to know what he's missing, okay? I have to come and do consulting for you, and you have to pay me a lot of money, and then we can talk after though. Did you have anything that you particularly wanted to learn? He just likes legroom. Anyone else? John, why are you here? He's like, I had nothing else to do.
Web apps, I should know about security.
Alright, learn more about security. Anyone else want to volunteer? Okay, well, I know a little bit more about you, so I'll teach you a little bit more about me. My name is Matt Raible. I'm from the Sticks, grew up in the backwoods of Montana, no electricity, no running water for 16 years. I had to walk to the bus stop, 1.5 miles each way, and yes, it was uphill both ways. I've had a few cool gigs lately in the last few years. I got to be the lead UI architect at LinkedIn, UI architect at eBite, Time Warner Cable as the chief architect of web development. Now I'm working at Overstock, and I work on some open source projects. I like to ski, I like to mountain bike, I like to golf, I like to be a dad, and I like to restore old buses. So that's my current project. That's not mine, but it's what I hope it looks like someday. So today we're going to talk about developing security into web apps, and what I'm going to do in that part is show you how to integrate standard Java EE security, and then I'm going to show you how to integrate security, Spring Security, and then Apache Shiro. And then I'm going to talk about how you verify that your apps are secure, a lot of vulnerabilities that web apps have, and then some commercial tools, and I even have some prices and some quotes from people that are in the security industry that talk about some of these commercial tools. And I can't put that in slides because there's some things that they probably don't want me to tell you. It was a personal email kind of thing, so I'll share it with you, but please don't tweet it. So that's why I call it develop, penetrate, protect, and relax. And like I said, the ideal presentation for me is that I spend like a half hour actually developing an app, I spend a half hour like penetrating and breaking it, and then I spend like 10 minutes fixing it all. And my promise to you is that I'm not going to do it here today, at least the last two, but I do plan on making this presentation in more like something on SlideShare where you can put videos into the presentation, so every time I do a demo, I'm going to record that as a screencast, get it into the presentation. When I do July, when I do that talk, I'll have screencasts of that, so you'll see how to actually break these applications that we're building today, and then how to fix them. So, as I said before, my real purpose in doing this talk is to learn more about Java Web App Security. I feel like I know a lot as far as the frameworks are concerned and how to implement it, but I'm not as familiar with how to penetrate, how to test it, and break it, and try to become a security expert. I want to show you how to implement web app security, how to penetrate a Java web app, and how to fix vulnerabilities. So I actually have a love-hate relationship with security, and I only recently realized this. 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, at 2:30 in the morning, my car got broken into, someone tried to steal it. My alarm went off for 2 seconds before they cut the cord and ripped out the horn. I loved it that night, because my alarm went off long enough that I heard it, I woke up, I yelled, they drove off. So all I lost was a horn on my alarm. 3 days later, they came back, broke the window, a dog, which is kind of security, barked, we caught him again, yelled at him, they drove off. Right? So I love security. When I went out for a run last week and left my keys at home, my girlfriend came back from her run and then took my keys and left the house and locked the doors. I hated security. Couldn't get into my house. Hotel rooms. When you leave the hotel room key in the hotel room, you hate it. When they make you change your password every 90 days, I hate it. But when I remember that new password, I love it. It's a great feeling that I just memorized these 8 characters. So with these various frameworks, Java EE, and this is actually more of a servlet API, Spring Security, and Apache Shiro, you can really do a lot to implement security in your web apps. And I think this is an interesting that I didn't talk about last night. If it deploys on Tomcat in a WAR file, it has a web XML. And most of the things we're going to talk about today are implemented in web XML or a file with web XML. And they're done with filters, which filter URLs. So that means most of the things we're doing here today can be implemented in things like Rails, JRuby on Rails, even Lyft or the Play framework, because they all have to have that web XML in order to actually instantiate that WAR file. And chances are maybe those frameworks do something to build that WAR file, so you can never actually modify that web XML in your project, but you can always crack open that WAR file and actually do it there. So first we're going to talk about Java EE 6. With Java EE, you define your security constraints in a web XML file with web resource collections, which is a list of URLs, authorization constraints, which is role names, and then you can also say this requires HTTP or HTTPS. The one thing you can't do is you can't say it requires HTTP and force it to go from HTTP back to HTTPS. The user realm is defined by the app server, so you actually have to program that in your app server. You can't do it in your app unless you use something like Jazz, but this is more Java EE. And in 3.0 and Servlet 3, Java EE 6, they've added the ability to do programmatic authentication. So there's some new methods on the request that you can use to actually log a person in programmatically. And that's all new. It only took them about 10 years to add it, so now it's there. And they also have some new annotations that you can use to actually, force security on certain methods and things of that sort. So I'm going to start off with a demo of implementing Java EE 6 security. Everyone see that okay? So this is just a simple app that I have that I built that I used for a previous project. And all it is a little user list that you can sort. You can add new users. From the main page. And, pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect this list so you actually have to be logged in to get to here. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up WebXML. Can everyone see that okay in the back of the room? If you can't, then move up. So this is the security constraints, the URL patterns, the role names, and then the authorization method. We're just going to use basic authentication. So unfortunately I have to restart for that. I believe it's already started, so I had the same problem last time. There we go. And so what this is going to do is it's going to pop up the traditional dialog box that you get that says, you can log in here. You can also do digest authentication, which encrypts the password before it's sent. You got an error, which is always good, right? So it says, no login service for basic authenticator. Anyone know what that means? No login service. Wow, that's good. So the reason is, as I said, you have to have a realm defined in your app server.